Let's get into this next segment where my desk becomes a bit of a couch. I'm joined by Claire Rowe, child and adolescent psychologist. Good to see you again, Claire. And Dr. Tanveer Ahmed, who's a psychiatrist. I'm really keen to get your thoughts on a couple of stories that have been around this week that relate to what we're doing to ourselves post-pandemic. One of them is a university study, I think a PhD study, Claire, where they're talking about how kids need some green time to get away from all the screen time. I mean, there's not a PhD in this, is there? That's just common sense. Get the kids out with the ball in the park or the bikes or whatever. Don't let them sit around looking at screens all day.
Yeah, it's called green time as opposed to screen time. We've named it. And can you imagine our mothers or previous generations kind of coming forward in time and going, oh my goodness, what a discovery that, you know, a university, probably taxpayers' money, has gone into a study saying, put the children outside. I mean, they would kind of say, well, that's just life. You know, that's life. We go outside. So, yes, it is good for kids. It's good for everyone. And as a psychologist, I think people are really shocked at the simplicity of my recommendations. They come to their first appointment and I go, you know, I want you to sleep better, I want you to eat better, and I want you to go outside once a day. And they go, really? And I go, wow. Yeah, that's what I want you to know.
Have you lost touch with these basics?
Yeah, to some extent, there's a bigger thing with the green time. It's also about unstructured play, where they need elements of play that aren't heavily structured. And the screens tend to be heavily structured. So it doesn't always have to be green time, because sometimes that can happen within the house or in the backyard.
Some of the green time can be unstructured. This is where I'm disappointed. My kids get a lot of time outdoors, right? Sport, park, bikes, all that, right? We make sure of that. But we're usually there with them because of the worries we have in the modern world. When I was a kid, me and my brothers, friends, cousins, we'd just disappear into the bush, you know, back at tea time. No one knew where we were.
That's right.
It's a bit harder to do that these days, isn't it?
It is hard. I mean, whether that's true or not, whether we're worried unnecessarily, statistically you can argue sometimes. But, I mean, look, but I think that broader aim there is it's not just about screens. It's about giving them this room to, be bored sometimes, sit with boredom, and have unstructured play.
Find this out. Tell us about these concerns we have, because we do elevate them perhaps more than they statistically should be elevated.
We do. There is an argument, and research has shown that perhaps the world is not, you know, more filled with the frequency of pedophiles or child abductors more than there was. But the cat's out of the bag, and now we have knowledge and coverage of these things. It is hard for parents. I accept that. But Tanveer's right. I think that the element is here we need unstructured play, and that means kids being bored, right? You're not always there as their entertainment all the time, and that can happen at home. And, you know, the kids who come up, you know, certainly, you know, in my generation as kids would say, oh, well, I'm bored. And my mother would say, well, I'll give you something to do then, you know. Here's the laundry. And you'd think, okay, all right.
Don't say you're bored again.
Don't say you're bored again. So go and figure that out, because that taps into an area of the brain of creativity, of problem solving, of an imagination that's not being utilised by kids these days when they're on screens.
There's some nanny state rules around too. So I was just thinking, going back a few months, where my little fella wanted to get into fishing. I'm not much of a fisherman, but I got into it for his sake. And we're fishing down at somewhere on Sydney Harbour, and there's signs up you're supposed to have a fishing licence. You know,
fishing licence?
Huckleberry Finn never had a fishing licence.
Bit harsh.